Hey guys, it's Steve-O. I hope everything's going well with you and that you are taking care of yourselves and the ones that you love. And before I launch into any of this, I'm going to do some housekeeping. Thank you, God, for being so slow to anger and giving me a chance to be here to do all this. And if my daughters ever chance upon this video, girls, I love each and every one of you the most. And then, small side note, it was this man's birthday a few days ago, I believe 2 days ago now. This is Thomas Sowell. He is an American philosopher and economist. He turned 93 years old. If you don't know who he is, go check out some of his stuff. You may enjoy it. Now I'm going to do what I'm kind of calling decompression by confession. I want to do this more often. I am in kind of a manic state of sorts right now, and I mean that in a very broad, loose sense, not in the psychological sense. But what I mean is, my girls have gone back to their mothers. Sorry, my throat got dry, and I had to take a drink of water. But more so now that it's summer vacation for them, I go from 2 weeks of being immersed in nonstop kids, which is, not complaining. But it's, get up, breakfast, what are we doing? We got to do this. How come we got to wake up? Why do we got to eat that? I don't want this. Why do we got to go outside? Can we this, that? Can we call them? Can we go here, do that? What time is it? I don't want to eat lunch. How come we can't go to the pool? Why is it blah? And then all of a sudden I go from 2 weeks of just nonstop that. I drop them off and I come home, close my door, and it will be silence for all intents and purposes for 2 weeks. And I don't enjoy that time. On top of it, this was a very rough 2 weeks, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. I'm going to be doing a video soon, maybe right after this, depending on how I feel and how this goes and how battery space is and all of that, about the wilderness. So I want to get a lot of this emotional stuff out before I launch into that, because I want that to be less about what's going on with me now and more just about the point. But I had a very rough and emotional, I don't know, whatever, just a rough, spiritually too, which is a new facet of my life. But just balling it all up and oversimplifying it, I just had this 2 frustrating and anxiety building run-ins with the ex that were not bad per se, but it's very difficult for me to navigate because I don't ever want to make things bad or worse. I either want to make sure things don't change or they get better. And I'm not good at that naturally. I'll talk about that again sometime soon in another video. But that ratchets up my anxiety. And ultimately, because what I don't want to do is say the wrong thing or miscommunicate something that puts my ex in a position where it's going to influence the amount of time that I see the kids. I never want to do that. So navigating all that. But one of the things specific is that I had planned on 2 Sundays ago now to get my daughter and I baptized. And it took a lot out of me when all is said and done, because it was all for nothing, because she ended up opting out. Now, I'm not upset at her, mad at her, or anything. I'm frustrated, but I always try to explain to people, I didn't bring this up to her, but I'm just saying now. But I do talk to them about this, about the importance of understanding both for them and for myself. And just as an example, if they spill milk, and I have to clean it up, and it's not anything where they did anything wrong, I spill things. So again, accidents happen. And I have to clean it up, and it's not water, so it's, milk, so you got to make sure you clean it right. And I tell them, if something like that happens, I'm frustrated. My back's going to get sore. I'm going to have to clean this up, clean it right. I don't want the thing to stink and get spoiled milk smell and bugs and rot. So I take a moment and explain to them, girls, I'm very frustrated right now. And I even try to make sure I eke a smile out like this, because I say, I'm not frustrated at you. I'm just frustrated because I have to do something now that I wasn't planning. So tying that back to her, I just needed to conduct myself in a way that didn't portray to her I was disappointed or frustrated or angry at her, even though I was frustrated. I don't want to say I was angry, but and anxiety and dealing with this, because again, I had to navigate. My ex didn't want her to go initially, and I had to navigate that, which I did to my credit. When I don't mean like pat on the back, I mean that more of just, again, I don't want to go into my history, but there's the history with me and my ex, which, you know, miscommunication is in there. But as I always say, I tend to, from my brain, then to my lips, to your ears and your brain, things get misconstrued. I don't often communicate things correctly. And they're misconstrued. I tend to, you know, I will talk about this. A big frustration I'm having is, and again, this is now going just retroactively when I think about all the things I messed up, but the whole concept of treat people as you want to be treated, I don't think that is correct, because in my opinion, I think what's more important is taking the time to understand how someone deserves to be treated. And what I mean by that is, I'm very, again, I don't want to go into this drift, but I'm very direct, I'm very frank, I'm very blunt, I'm very candid. And as wordy as I am, I try to limit my vocabulary, at least to a point. I don't try to go off into tangents and use big words to sound intelligent. I'm trying to think of an example, so I may pause here. But the most basic example that I can give, and maybe a general sense, is I prefer, you know, and this is, so, here is an example. I was told to try not to approach people with the 5 questions: who, what, where, when, why. You know, why'd you do this? How come? Where were you? Whatever. When, you know, blah, blah, blah. The reason being, it puts people on the defensive. It's offensive when coming from a person. And that frustrates me because I love that. When people question me, I am so thankful, because what that means is that person didn't understand what I said. There's a disconnect, and now they were honest enough to approach me, and I get to now share what that person was missing and what I think. So I don't mind being questioned. I like it. I like when people say, I don't understand what you mean, as long as it's not, you know, accusatory, like you're not doing it right. If it's a genuine approach, I don't understand what you mean when you said that. Can you explain that? And I'll say, yes. Now, I want to be treated like that. Now, what I'm hearing is I come off as very brash, accusatory, offensive, condescending when I do that to people. So again, it bothers me that I can't treat people as I want to be treated. I like that directness. I like the frankness. I like when, again, the openness, where that intimidates a lot of people, and that frustrates me. And one thing I'm struggling with spiritually is I'm still so isolated and alone, and I'm still going through things, and this is part of the process. So I want to pause and say that is one of the biggest aspects I need to constantly work on and be self-aware of is, let me take a drink, the fact that if I look at it like a football game, whatever, or, you know, a more biblical anecdote, planting seeds. Not every seed you plant grows. Some grow and then die off. Some don't even make it. But with the football analogy in that, my ultimate point is I need to focus on making sure I'm not looking at punting on a third down as a loss. Meaning, if I go to a church and that's not where I'm supposed to be, that is a waste of time in one regard, which bothers me because I want to find my church. But I know now that church is not the place I want to be. I know that whatever I learned is not nothing, and I need to constantly make sure I keep myself aware of that. And I struggle with that often. I'm like, oh man, I messed up. I struggle with I feel rejection where there is none. Again, where what I should be seeing is a small victory in another step, a step in progress, in legitimate progress towards an actual goal, which is finding that home, so to speak. And again, not every, back when I was married and we were looking at homes, we looked at a bunch of homes till we found one, and it's kind of the same thing, I suppose. But that's a big thing I'm struggling with, so what I was going back to originally is, I feel as if I've made progress, and I'm still alone, and that again, struggle with failure, rejection. I'm doing it wrong, not doing it right, whatever. My ultimate point is, I need to understand that if I could break it down into one way I try to look at it is, I have been sinning, godless, just an awful, selfish, self-centered, deceitful person for 40 plus years of my life. And a biblical analogy, I talked on this channel, I think before, about structure and how I need to tear out my structure and rebuild it. And there's the biblical analogy that Jesus says about building your house on sand, which is, one analogy to what I did, versus stable structure ground like rocks and the such. And yeah, I'll go into it. I'm at a stage where, talking about, I think it's so important to have structure and build upon that structure and make sure it's stable, moral, right. And I didn't. So now I'm at the stage where everything I built for 40 years has collapsed down on that structure, which is bad enough. But now I have to go and where that, hole in the ground is, tear everything out, move it all, look at my failures, see the things I've done wrong, the things I should have done right, move that all, clear it out, back-breaking labor, and then start to try to build a new structure. My point is, I'm not there yet, and I can understand now why people don't want to be around me, why it's hard, because I'm not there. It stinks in one way, because I would like someone to say, there's something about Steve that I'm willing to talk to him, sit down and listen to him, but I'm not, and that is what it is. Maybe I'll find that person. But I'm not there yet. And I often talk about when people pray for things. As an example, I think I said in the 78 atheist question, something akin to, when people pray, and I'll use an example right now, say, God, please, Lord, give me $1 million. God may not say, here's $1 million, but God may say, yeah, but you don't need that $1 million right now, because you'll squander it, lose it, spend it on drugs, spend it on, again, God knowing what he is, he may see that you're going to spend it on real estate that's going to tank, go into a college career after a degree that amounts into nothing but college debt, so on and so forth, all of these things. So what God's not saying is that you're not going to get that $1 million. He may say you'll get it in $100,000 increments when you earn it and deserve it, because that will show not me as God, but you, that you are ready to do that. Again, so when I am asking God for these things for a person, a peer, a friend, a minister, someone to listen to, a mentor, God may not put that in front of me now, because I would squander and waste it. One thing I'm grateful for, as it's a big slap in the face, is I talk a lot about patience. Patience is in abundance. Patience is free. And in all of this, I'm realizing how impatient I am, even though that there's a base there. It's not complete. It's not perfect. And it stands out in times like this when I feel impatient. And so much so it creates anxiety, when all I'm really doing is doing what I'm being hypocritical, because I expect others to be patient with me. And so again, for me I don't want to be hypocritical and not allow others to be patient and to be understanding or forgiving of them if they are misjudging me or being selfish or thoughtless on their own end. I understand. I at some point I'm going to falter in Jesus's eyes and in the eyes of people I know. And I pray I get forgiveness and understanding when I do, and not harsh rebukes or how would I say it? Dismissal of any progress I've made, saying, Steve O.C., you just like you were before because you've done what you did before. Where now, again, since starting to understand Jesus, these things I do that were the norm, I feel bad doing it. I don't know how to explain it. That's one thing I hear a lot, and I'm going to kind of wrap it up here, is people say when you are saved, you start to see the world different. And that for like looking at this, it's different. But for me, it's more philosophically and perspective, where I'm looking at the same things, but it's not, the colors different and the things are brighter and the birds are louder. It is just, I don't know, it's different. I feel like I understand more and things are making more sense. And I'm going to wrap this up and start on my video about the wilderness. So I hope everything's going well with you, that you're taking care of yourselves and the ones that you love. Go easy.